Have you ever had that feeling, that one where you look around in a meeting and you're kind of waiting to be, called out? For what? For being a fraud. Or the feeling like anyone could do what you could do or achieve what you've achieved. That's imposter syndrome sneaking up on you. Today we're going to look at mentoring and empowerment, and when we focus on these two powerful aspects of our leadership communication development, we're going to see how we can send imposter syndrome packing. Hello and welcome to The Communicative Leader, hosted by me, Dr. Leah O'Million Hodges. My friends call me Dr. O. I'm a professor of communication and a leadership communication expert. On The Communicative Leader, we're working to make your work life what you want it to be. Leadership is a lifelong journey. Our communication skills, too, they're in constant development. What goes part and parcel with leadership and communication? Relationship development and forming these developmental relationships. Wait a minute, are we talking relationship development or are we talking forming developmental relationships? Well, I'm glad you asked. We're doing both. So first things first, relationships are essential. Period. They are essential when we are new in organizations, we're getting our footing. They're essential when we earn a managerial role. They are essential when we're connecting with the people, the groups, the communities that we serve. They're essential at work and, as we know, personally as well. Workplace relationships can assist us and they can bolster us in so many ways. From a peer to show us the ropes, a manager who will shield us from unnecessary backlash, to a mentor who looks out for us and who advocates for us. This leads us to developmental relationships, connecting with those who are in a position to teach us, to shepherd us, but also to critique us, to have those hard conversations when necessary, and again, to be our advocate, to be in our corner. So sure, on the surface, having a mentor sounds pretty helpful, right? We continue to grow personally and professionally, and this is true, but I want to share some additional benefits with you. Are you ready, my friends? Okay, those with mentors typically earn higher salaries, enjoy greater recognition, are promoted more frequently, and report higher levels of job satisfaction. And what about our mentors out there? What's in it for them? Mentors often report feelings of self-satisfaction and gratitude. If you're in a position to mentor, you've made it, baby. And sure, you might not be at your final role goal, but it means that you've earned enough experience to help another. If we think about good old Maslow here in the hierarchy of needs, my mentors out there, you are at the top of the pyramid. You are fulfilling those self-actualization needs. You've reached a high level of potential and you're giving back to others. So before we dive into how to find a mentor or how to find a mentee, I want to talk more about these two primary functions that mentors help to fulfill. So our mentors, these important organizational guides, they assist employees with career functions and psychosocial functions. You might be thinking, is this an either or? Either they're helping me with my career or they're helping me with, whatever that second thing is you said, those psycho whatever functions. Or is this a both and? They help me with both my career needs and my psychological needs. By the way, psychosocial simply combines your psychological and social needs. Well, the answer, it depends. Some mentees need both functions fulfilled. Others need one more than the other. Also, some mentors may be better positioned to fulfill one of these functions. Those who are technical experts might be really, really savvy when it comes to offering guidance regarding the industry and career, but maybe not as forthcoming with the emotional support. And others might be extremely empathetic and mentee-centered. They're there to be your sounding board, to bolster your confidence, and coach you in other ways to help you feel like your best professional self. This really boils down to the mentor-mentee strengths, their needs, goals, and levels of experience. Generally speaking, if you're new to an organization or you've transitioned to a new industry, it's likely you're seeking a mentor who can provide both those career functions and the psychosocial support. maybe even leaning a little bit more towards that psychosocial side. Well, once we're established in an organization or we've been in our industry for a while, we have some confidence, we've built up some self-efficacy, we might be more focused on the career side. So let's start first with our emotional and social or psychosocial functions. Because of the close relationships we form with our mentors, we look to them for affirmation, for support, for validation. So when we're thinking of the social emotional side, we are thinking of mentors fulfilling 4 primary functions. First one, role modeling. Above all, mentors are role models, right? These are people we watch, we listen to them. Mentors show us how to manage conflict, how to build teams, how to gather information, how to make ethical decisions. And this is something they offer us as mentees simply by performing their roles in the organization. A good mentor is never going to say, do as I say, not as I do. They may, however, say something like, do as I say, not as I did. What's the difference there? They help us to learn and grow by allowing us to sidestep the mistakes or faux pas that they may have made. In addition to walking the walk, role models accept us and they confirm us. When we think about acceptance and confirmation, we are focusing on that positive regard that emerges from these healthy mentor-mentee relationships. Each party should feel respected. They should feel encouraged. As I mentioned earlier, if you're mentoring a recent grad, someone new to the field, or even the department, acceptance and confirmation is key. Once they have some confidence, once they've bolstered that self-efficacy, they are in a place to flourish. One of the quickest ways we can help them to get there is by giving feedback and praising the work that they're doing well. Those formal tasks that they're hired for, and their attitude, their citizenship behaviors as well. Now let's consider our third psychosocial function, counseling. This is not to be confused with providing mental health services, and I don't say that lightly, but rather serving as counsel, serving as a sounding board, helping them to think about tricky situations or conversations or encounters. Help them brainstorm how to frame a pitch or how to mend that misunderstanding that has come up with their peer or a leader. When we think about this functioning, this counseling functioning, we're really thinking about helping our mentees through work issues that are detracting from or could detract from their workplace performance or their workplace satisfaction. The final aspect of the psychosocial I want us to consider is this interpersonal angle, the liking, the trust, the friendship that is likely to emerge as a result of working together. This relationship, it requires trust, it requires respect, and it requires vulnerability. When we combine these ingredients, what we tend to end up with, regular meetings too, is friendship. But before we move into the career functions mentors fulfill, I want to recap those psychosocial functions. Again, a fancy schmancy way of describing how mentors help to fulfill some social and emotional needs. Again, we're talking role modeling, accept and confirm, counseling, and friendship or the interpersonal bond that's likely to emerge. Now I want to chat about some of these career functions. We're going to look at 4 of these elements too. Sponsorship. Really simply put, mentors go to bat for mentees. Mentors advocate for mentees. So if an opportunity arises that they think is good, they'll put their name in the hat. This is really important because mentors usually have access to resources that mentees don't, and this might mean a seat at an important decision-making table. Mentees can gain a lot simply by being associated with a strong mentor. Between observation and time, advice, reputation. Right now, I want you to think of that adage, birds of a feather flock together. The same idea applies here. The mentor's clout is often extended to the mentee. Mentors also coach. How do they do this? Primarily in the way that they help their mentees understand the politics or norms of an organization. You might help them to understand how decisions are made, what key values are, and who actually holds the power. Mentors can help to acclimate the protege. In addition, they can make suggestions regarding how to get their work done, advice on career goals, and supply feedback regarding their performance. The third career function that mentors typically enact is protection. They are going to shield mentees if things aren't going well. What does this look like? It might mean taking the blame for slow progress on a project, talking to senior officials on behalf of the mentee if they're not ready, or stepping in when the mentee just isn't up for the task yet. What's the caveat? Because you know one is coming. Sometimes we need to learn from our mistakes. Sometimes that backlash is earned. I almost said deserved, and I think that's maybe too harsh of a word. But sometimes that's how we recognize, okay, deadlines really are firmly set. They are carved in stone in this organization. But again, mentors then can help to frame the issue, engage in some brainstorming so that the mentee is set up for success in the future. On an earlier episode, I shared an example of when a colleague of mine was working on public speaking. He was set up to MC a large work function. He went outside to get some air before the attendees arrived. He came in and his shirt was so wet. I literally thought he got caught in a rainstorm. Nope, my friends, that was a heck of a lot of stress sweat there. And we've been there, right? No judgment. I share this because it was a clear moment when stepping up and offering protection, offering an alternative was the only option. What would have happened if we pushed him to MC the event in that state? Would not only likely have been probably professionally damaging, but personally embarrassing, and also would have reflected poorly on the organization and detracted from the event. Our final career function we're going to look at are challenging assignments. We seek mentors because we want to perform at high levels. As mentors, we can set high expectations. Again, these need to be reasonably attainable, that help our mentees to become higher performers. If we continually set the bar too low, we're setting a poor benchmark. Not only are we telling mentees it's okay to perform at this level, but we're also telling them implicitly, this is where I expect you to be. In our communication challenge this week, we're going to look at the Pygmalion effect. Oh, I got you on the edge of your seat. I know it. But stay tuned. And I promise I'm not going to leave you hanging for too long. We're going to come back to this, how this idea of challenging but attainable comes into play with mentoring, with empowering, which we're going to look at next, and then overcoming that pesky imposter syndrome that likes to sneak up on all of us from time to time. So we know a thing or two about mentoring now. We know the roles that mentors fulfill. We know that not only does this mean that they help us to navigate organizations and industries, but it also likely means that we may earn more money. We might enjoy our job more, and we're likely going to hold a higher status than those who don't seek out mentors. So speaking of seeking out mentors, how the heck do we do that? You know what? We're going to brainstorm and we're going to do a few things together right now. So I want you to open a note on your phone, jot some ideas down, or just say them aloud if you're driving. My friends, I want you to make a list of what you need to work on. Yes, I want you to identify what, not who. So what we tend to do is we zero in on people first because we're drawn to them. We admire them. We're comfortable with them. So we think that they should be our mentor. However, before we do that, a better approach is to consider our needs. First, what are your strengths? And then more importantly for this discussion, what are the areas that you need to improve on? Once we develop a list of our needs, we're going to have a better idea of who can be most beneficial in the mentoring role. Do we need some technical skills? Maybe some type of statistical training? Do we need to learn a certain software? Or do we need to learn how to speak up in meetings, how to advocate for our ideas, how to navigate or circumvent the politics in our organization? After we make that list, after considering what we need, now we are ready for step 2. We need to evaluate ourselves. Are we ready for a mentor? Do we have the necessary, often the fundamental skills? And really, really an important question to ask, are you in a position where you can handle honest feedback? I once had a student who was so kind and so excited, and she kept telling me she just wanted to quantify. Okay, sure, we can do a quantitative study, but in one area. What are you interested in? And again, we'd circle back to just wanting to quantify. Not a bad thing, and it's part of the process of graduate work. But I share this example because this student wasn't at a place to approach faculty for advising yet, for mentoring quite yet. So we are identifying what we need, we're evaluating ourselves, and now we're on the third step. Now we can identify some potential candidates. Is it a person in your department? Because sometimes people that we work immediately with, they're not the best fit. Why? Because we're so close to them. It might be hard for us to share openly and honestly what we feel about after a decision was made or about others in our department. I also want you to think about personality. Sure, maybe this person is an expert, but are you going to be in a position to feel vulnerable with them and to develop trust with them? So the bottom line, you're thinking about who can I learn the most from? Fourth step, prepare for obstacles. My friends, you're going to have to do some homework, just like if you were going to have a job interview. Find out what this person's responsibilities are, what is their background, what special interests do they have? And I also want you to think about what questions you can anticipate from them. So what are some of these questions? They might say, okay, tell me why I should mentor you. What is it that you expect from me? How long do you expect this relationship to go on, right? What do these meetings look like? Now, the more work that you put in ahead of time, the smoother that this conversation or these conversations are likely to go. It's also a way for you to demonstrate to your mentor that you are serious and that you're ready to be mentored. Finally, approaching mentors. Ask for an introduction if you don't already know them. See if there's an acquaintance, maybe someone you're connected with on LinkedIn or other networking sites. Typically, we don't want to cold call people to ask them to be our mentor because it is a big ask. You want to set up an appointment and spell out what we're looking for. Now I want us to shift gears a little bit because we spend a lot of time thinking about what mentors do and how to find a mentor. My friends out there who are listening, and you're at the opposite end, who are thinking, gosh, I've got a lot to share. I've done stuff. I've seen stuff. Hats off to you, my friends. That didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen on its own. You worked hard, and you earned that. So some criteria for you for selecting mentees. One, I want you to know there are a lot of tools out there for diagnosing the needs of mentees. I also want to encourage you to create a formal agreement that both you and your mentee sign so that we know exactly what is expected of both parties and what happens if one party isn't fulfilling their obligations. Also want you to have periodic check-ins to say, okay, are we meeting our expectations? What are these outcomes that we set? And this also gives us an opportunity for you to make adjustments if necessary. Maybe you set overly ambitious goals, or maybe we recognize, wow, we're really clicking through here at a great pace. Then that gives you the chance to adjust as is necessary to continue this relationship in the most productive and copacetic way possible. So we know the functions that mentors fulfill, and we know the benefits, and we know how to find a mentor, and we have some pointers on when we might be in a position to mentor others. Part of the benefit of having a mentor is a feeling of empowerment and the tangible outcomes that come with it. When we feel empowered, we're more likely to offer a suggestion or critique. When we feel empowered, we're more likely to take on big projects and remain committed to them, even when they get pretty challenging. In short, when we feel empowered, we dive in, we are engaged. So basically, empowerment is awesome, right? When we're empowered, we feel unstoppable. And this feeling, it feels good, my friends. And not only that, that feeling of empowerment also comes with some pretty cool behaviors. I think of it almost like a superpower. So now we know one path to empowerment is via a mentor. Let's consider some other paths to empowerment. And hint, the more empowered we feel, the less likely we are to experience the feeling of imposter syndrome, or worse yet, to get stuck in that feeling. Empowerment. A lot goes into this little word, and a lot can stem and grow from it. In one class I teach, we look at how communicators across countries feel when they engage in persuasion or when they're knowingly using influence strategies. In the US, the common theme was empowerment. This says a lot about our culture, but it also clearly demonstrates the link between feeling capable and demonstrating that skill and our abilities as a communicator. What goes into creating a workplace where employees feel empowered? It can be as simple as asking and not telling. Sure, there are more nuances and other paths, but the simplest way for all of my managers out there, ask your employees how they feel about a change. Ask them what they recommend. Ask them what they would do. Ask them how this work could be innovated, what processes could be streamlined. This echoes what Vanessa Hills was teaching us about dialogic organizational change. When we involve people, we see up to a 93% success rate versus the traditional 30% success rate when we tell them and hope that they just get on board. Now I want us to think about a couple of examples. Your work group has been working hard and you've had a lot of frequent successes. You're not only meeting deadlines, but you're hitting benchmarks early and the quality is higher than anticipated, as are the sales. As a result, senior leadership has given your manager additional funds to use at their discretion as a way to say thank you. So I want us to think about two ways your manager could approach this. Number one, as a result of our hard work, the C-suite's given me some funds to use at my discretion as a kind of thank you for what you've been doing. I've decided to set money aside so we may all attend and travel to our national conference. Some of it will be used to purchase additional books, online trainings that are going to be available to all of you. And finally, we're going to go for a very, very nice dinner on the company. Okay. So don't get me wrong here. This is still an employee-centered response. The manager is being transparent with how funds are going to be used, and there are ways that the manager thinks are going to directly benefit employees. From attending a conference, access to additional professional development, and a nice meal, all as a way to say thank you. But it's also important to consider another option. What about this? As a result of your hard work, the C-suite is giving me some funds to use at my discretion as a kind of thank you for what we've been doing. I have some ideas how we might use this, maybe funding travel to our national conference or access to additional professional development resources. But before I make any decisions, I want to hear from you. I have to submit my plans by 5 o'clock on Friday. So bring any ideas to me individually, as a group, as small groups by 5 p.m. on Wednesday. You can pop in when my doors open. You can send me an email or add a note to our team post-it board or the shared drive. At the end of the day, I have to make the final decision, but you've all worked so hard and I'm truly interested in how you think this funding should be used. So what's going on here in the second option? The manager is engaging employees, involving them in the decision-making process. Managers giving clear expectations for when suggestions need to be submitted. In a variety of ways, the employees can do this. They can do it individually. They can do it collectively. They can do it face-to-face. You can pick a mediated channel or a group post-it board. I think it's also important to point out the manager tells employees at the end of the day, it's their decision, but one that they want to make collaboratively. If you're in a position of authority, whether you manage a team, one employee, an intern, a classroom, practice asking instead of telling in order to bolster that employee or student or intern empowerment. So what are some other paths to empowerment? 1, helping others. When we are in a position to lead, whether formally or informally, whether large or small, being in a position to assist someone else, to teach them, to orient them, to support them, that also empowers us. Now, we don't want to take this so far that we're having a hard time accomplishing our own work or we feel like we're being taken advantage of. No, not to that extreme, but rather we're being recognized for a particular strength or set of strengths that we have. This can be as simple as walking new employees through the organization, introducing them to key collaborators, or leading a lunch and learn in regard to a particular approach to campaign design or analysis or another skill. Is your manager too busy to recognize what you really excel at? Let him or her or them know that you're happy to do X, Y, and Z. Be explicit about it, what you are ready to do and how you propose to do it. For example, I can do a lunch and learn, or can you save me 10 minutes of our team meeting? Or would you mind, I'm going to send out this email that I think is really going to help others. Another path to empowerment, set goals. I want you to write them down. I want you to post them, and I really want you to tell a friend. Another path to empowerment is working toward and achieving new goals. There's a link between commitment and consistency. When we write something down, when we post it publicly, or even just say it to ourselves, looking in the mirror, when we tell important others, it helps us remain committed to that goal. Have you always wanted to be better with numbers? Tell a friend you're taking an accounting class. See how much more likely you are to actually sign up and put your money down, since you know your friend is going to circle back and ask about it. Do you want to drink more water? Post it on social media and friends and acquaintances are going to follow up. Goals can be personal, water intake, hours of sleep, exercise. It can be professional. How many sales are you going to earn this month? How high will your evaluations be? Setting and working toward a goal, again, personal or professional, is going to enhance those feelings of empowerment. A third idea, I want you to ask, I want you to listen, and then I want you to reflect. This is another way to bolster those feelings of empowerment. Ask those you trust, those who really see you, who know you. This might be your manager, depending on the relationship you share. It could be a close peer. But you can also do these check-ins with a romantic partner, with friends, with other family members. Ask them what they see as your strengths. What makes you stand out? What do they really admire about you? And then truly listen. Listen without interjecting. Listen without clarifying. Listen without checking out or without a wandering mind. Listen. And then reflect. Are these strengths that you've noticed before? How do you see yourself using these strengths? Are there other opportunities and ways in which you can integrate these skills? In addition to asking others, this is a really good exercise for you to do on your own as well. We know this feeling of empowerment, it's magical. If you're in a position of authority, again, formally or informally, maybe your peers look to you. Practice asking, not telling. What else can we do? We can help others, we can set goals, and we can ask, listen, and reflect. And now, my friends, we're moving on to our last section, overcoming imposter syndrome. This is where we really start to see the other areas connect in really neat ways. When we're working with a mentor or doing the mentoring, we're in a state of empowerment or on our way there. We're engaging in meaningful relationships designed to help meet our goals or help someone else meet their goals. But even when we're doing all of the things, when we're seeking out mentors, when we're intentionally choosing activities designed to empower ourselves or those we work with, sometimes these nagging feelings can creep up on us, this feeling that we're playing the role of an analyst or an engineer or a teacher or a manager. But deep down, we're afraid we're not quite there yet. You don't know how far you are. You're maybe not quite experienced enough. We don't quite know enough. Simply stated, we kind of feel like a fraud. Yeah, that's not a good feeling. And when this feeling sneaks up on us, it is very hard to feel empowered. When we feel like an imposter, we're missing out on that authentic connection to our work and, most importantly, to ourselves. It is important to point out that everyone experiences this from time to time. Feeling like an imposter, though, it might be most present when we're in a new job, fresh out of college, or transitioning to a new industry. It might also be when we find ourselves connecting with others in the field, maybe through an association or a conference, and we think, oh gosh, in comparison to them, maybe I'm not quite where I thought I was. You might feel like you're waiting for others to say, aha, we knew you couldn't do it. Or you might feel like you're only successful because of the help you receive from others. Those who are experiencing imposter syndrome often discredit themselves or dismiss their own achievements or think that anyone is capable of doing what they have done. No, my friends, because in the words of Dr. Seuss, today you are you. That is truer than true. No one alive is youer than you. Hey, y'all know I have young kids at home, and this is the material we're working with here, right? So now that we know what imposter syndrome is, how do we overcome it? 1, I want you to own those accomplishments. You earned that degree. You earned that job. You earned that promotion. You led that project. Whatever it is, you own it. I know this can be challenging to do. It can feel uncomfortable to talk about our own achievements. It can feel like we're bragging. And in a culture where #humblebrag is a widely known thing, we tend to shy away from discussing our own successes. Is this challenging for you? Get out your resume. Get out your CV. Look at what you've done. Also, if anyone could do it, think of a good friend. Think of a family member, someone who's intelligent but in a different field. Could they go in and do your job? Could they accomplish your to-do list the way you do it? Very, very unlikely. I also want to see you keep track of your wins, small and large. Whether it's a note on your phone, a document on your computer, a running list on your planner, when you routinely take time to reflect on what you've accomplished, it provides objective evidence that you are doing it. Whether it's getting through all of those client emails or finally finishing that pitch or brainstorming the new design, these activities are helpful reminders of your expertise and your skill. What else do I want you to do? I want you to stop comparing yourself to others. Okay, am I going to have to pull out Dr. Seuss again? I'll do it. You know I will. But all kidding aside, this comparison stuff isn't really helping anyone. Maybe it seems like a peer is doing far more than you are, or you feel like someone else has an easier time with client presentations than you do. These are questions or concerns that you can raise in your one-on-one meetings with your manager or in your annual review. These are not things that can be definitively determined by casual glances or assumptions we make when we look at others and their perceived output or their perceived experience. That's it. These are just perceptions. This is not necessarily reality. Again, imposter syndrome sneaks up on all of us from time to time, but by tracking our wins, owning our accomplishments, and focusing on our own experience and our own growth, we can send that pesky feeling packing. Now, my friends, we've come to our communication focus for the week. What is it? Anyone? Remember, I promised we'd circle back to it. Aha, the Pygmalion effect. Yes, another semi-obnoxious academic term, but one that is really, really helpful. So the Pygmalion effect, also known as the Rosenthal effect, it's a simple one. When we hold high expectations for ourselves or for our team members, we tend to get higher performances. So my managers out there, by helping your team members set high goals, they're more likely to achieve them. What's key here? The fact that these goals need to be attainable. We are not setting people up for failure here. 100%. That is not what we're doing on the communicative leader. We are not setting people up to work around the clock or to set them up for burnout. Nope, not on my watch, friends. Instead, we're thinking about where an employee is. We're thinking about their personal and professional goals, and we're helping them to meet those. Again, we're going to make sure that this is actually doable with the resources that we currently have access to. How else can we use the Pygmalion effect? Well, with ourselves. We talked about setting goals. By thinking about how we can push just a bit further out of our comfort zone and what that looks like, we are more likely to achieve it. So put simply, what a leader or an individual expects from him or her or themselves, they're likely to achieve. We talked about this in a positive sense, right? Setting lofty yet realistic goals and achieving them. But it's also important, my friends, that we remember that this works the other way too. If we make it clear we don't expect much from an employee, a peer, a child, or ourselves, then it's likely they're going to give us what we expect. And again, applied to us, applied to me, applied to you. If we think we can't do it, we're likely going to prove ourselves right. The way we talk to ourselves matters. The way we talk to our employees matters. The way we talk to our peers matters. Next week on The Communicative Leader, what you need to know about the relationship you share with your leader. And of course, my leaders out there, what you need to know about the relationship you share with your employees. All right, my friends, that wraps up our conversation today. Until next time, communicate with intention and lead with purpose. I'm looking forward to chatting with you again soon on The Communicative Leader.